didn't see you there.
Something big is going on here.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot,
paranormal, UFOs, true crime, and more.
We won't just be spouting articles.
I was researching for your entertainment.
Beginning of a new world.
The best squawk you'll ever fucking eat.
true story.
It's basically like one day you walk outside and you see that the ants are playing with matches.
This is the Black Cat Report. See you on the other side.
Young Bigfoot sighting January 5th, 2023 in Buffalo, New York. Appeared to be a young male crossing the road between the woods. We were in our car about 50 feet away. The creature just sauntered across the road in no hurry, but had the most warm and non-threatening demeanor. My wife and I will never forget him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 29 of the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and joined with me this evening is the beautiful, the incredible, the incredulous Joey. Along with Betsabe.
Hi.
And Selena.
Hello.
Tonight, we are absolutely delighted to welcome back to the show the one and only Scott Tompkins, founder of the Bigfoot Mapping Project.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Scott, how the hell are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back. I think I said it earlier before we started the show, but thank you for having me back. If you guys, some of you weren't in the room, so I want to say it again. Thank you very much. And also, congratulations. You guys are really growing and kicking ass. So love to see it. Love to see it.
Thank you so much, my man. And congratulations on getting married, by the way.
Woo-woo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes!
Yes, I am quite lucky because by all accounts, I cannot be easy to be married to. So I'm quite lucky and quite grateful to have my wife in my life. Yes, very lucky.
Aww.
Well,
I hope she listens to this episode.
I'm going to go out there on a limb. Say it's mutual. So I'm going to say it's mutual. Now, before we get too far in, I wanted to share with our listeners what they will find when they check out the Bigfoot Mapping Project, which, if y'all go back to episode 8, last time we had Scott on, you'll learn all about. We don't want to rehash what the project's doing, what you can find on your iPhone or on your Android, or somehow, if possible, you have a BlackBerry, one of those devices. We don't want to go out there and we don't want to dig that up. But what we do want to do is dig into like what's going on now with Bigfoot. This news keeps going even when we don't think about it. And that's what's important to keep in mind here, is that like the news is still coming in. Things are still taking, evidence is coming in, there's claims, there's misidentifications, there's identifications, there's stories. All of this is still flooding in. Bigfoot hasn't gone away. The only thing that's not blurry here is honestly the accounts. They're still rolling in here. And we want you all to know that that's what's going on. So, honestly, Scott, you sent us over some audio. Which one would you like us to play first?
Let's see. I think we should save, I don't want to say my favorite, but one of the most, the higher quality recordings. I think if we started with the one in the UK, now I'm going to butcher this name, Lekrid.
Lekrid
is one of the first audio files that was submitted to the Bigfoot Mapping Project. And it's very interesting because it's in the UK. And I think we'll all hear perhaps some similarities through the audio files that I've sent through. What the vocalizations sound like. It's really interesting to hear them. There's 3 that I sent. The first one's in Lekrid, second one's in Virginia, and then the third one's in Mississippi. And I think there's some similarities between all 3. And that, before we play, I think that's one of the cool things that the more reports we get, that's one of the coolest things we're going to be able to do with the project is start to tie data together like this and start to do analysis and from building, for example, audio files, right? I think this is a great place to start. So I'm ready whenever you are. You might have to crank that volume. This one is very faint in the background and it's hard to hear, but there's a dog barking and then there's another sound, I believe, in this one or the second one. This one's still very low. I had to really listen hard to hear it.
I want to go down and see it.
Okay, cool. So this recording in Lechred is actually in a park in the UK, and it's two teenagers exploring, and you can hear in the distance something. If I do the sound, it won't do it justice. You need to listen. So
I heard it earlier.
you did? Okay, good.
Yeah,
No,
it's
please.
really eerie. I don't know what I would have done.
It's kind of prehistoric, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like it's reminiscent.
And then doesn't one of the kids say, "I want to go look
Yeah,
at
he
it."
does. This is like it opens up with I want to go I want to go see it or something like that. He says.
Yeah, I want to go down and look at
Yeah.
it. And I was like, "No."
Teenage me, I know for a fact teenage me would have run in the other direction, because when something shook a tree, I think I mentioned this on the last episode I was on, I bolted down the mountain. So those kids are much braver than I was. But yeah, so that's one of the recordings, and it's a very short clip. I think it's like 14 seconds. You can only hear a few of the vocalizations, but that recording, when we are able to hear it, is very similar if we fly over to Virginia, and it's in the north part of Virginia.
You want me to play it?
It's in, I'm sorry?
West Virginia.
What? Do you know where it is?
West Augusta.
Where?
Virginia.
Yes.
West Virginia.
Oh, West Virginia.
I do want to take a moment to highlight. All right, so the last episode we got into a lot of the, what's another phrase for this? I don't know. The semantics behind like the app, behind the podcast, behind the data. Like, obviously, Scott, you immediately had my heart when you started talking data. Literally, my cat's name is Data. Okay, so like, I love data. Okay, but what we're really trying to like bring here is just like, yo, like this is a resource. This is a tool. This is honestly beyond all of that. It's an experience. Okay, if you're into Bigfoot, right? If you're into Sasquatch, like go download it. Go check it out. Go to the website. It's free. Like, if I remember correctly, Scott, the only reason why you had any paywall anything, which is like $1 something for a lifetime, right, is just to prevent trolls, because trolls are cheap. And that was the only reason why you want, like, you put up anything. It's like $2 for like, hey, you're in for life. Congratulations.
Yeah,
like mob style. You're good.
It was, well, that, and it's a nice way to pay. The app sales help support the website, pay the software licenses, and really that's it. That's the motivation behind the pay for the app, is just to be able to keep it up there, frankly. It does cost, probably you guys know, you're all techie, you know what it costs just to probably buy the software or have this software to make the podcast. Costs X amount per month or whatever the license is. So that's all it's for. And it is a nice benefit is that trolls are cheap, and they they don't want to pay $2 to put. I have had a few trolls that I've had to track, and get rid of their submissions, but it's very few. So
They're always standing under bridges asking for money, so obviously trolls are not. They're cheap.
They are, or they're stuck back in the 90s, troll dolls. But that's how old I am. Oh, gosh.
Don't even get me started on that hair. Hey, my sister collected troll dolls.
Really? I remember.
Yeah, I'm almost 30.
Okay. So I don't feel so bad anymore then. Okay, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the app itself, what I love about it is it's not just like here's a sighting. It's like here's a vocalization. Here's photos. Like, here's a collection of evidence from all around the country, from different decades, from different times, from da-da-da-da-da-da. And you can, like, zoom in to your geolocation and actually start finding stuff in your neighborhood.
I actually...
And I also...
It's insane.
Go ahead, Selena. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, I like that people can submit, like, really old stories, too. Like, I was looking at, like, some people have stories from, like, 1978, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting. Like this has been happening for so long.
It's really interesting. You touched on an interesting phenomenon that I think is pretty unique to the way that people can report sightings in the Bigfoot Mapping Project. Is you don't have to have an investigator come out, and this is just as much a trial of the public and crowdsourcing and my analysis. Obviously, I read every sighting and every report and delete just the inappropriate ones, really. But you can if you're uncomfortable with having somebody come out and visit and take the report like the BFRO does, for example, this is a nice alternative just to get your story out there. This might be the only outlet that people have for some of their reports, and this is going to be in perpetuity now, right? So it's not paraphrased. This is directly from the person who, in their own words, how they describe their sighting, and there's plenty of space for them to put their sighting in, and plenty of space for people tons of stories. I don't think you could run out of stories to read here.
No.
There's something like 8,000 sightings now total in the database between the historical database and what's been submitted. And since last time I talked to you guys, I think we're at just over around 330 sightings that have been submitted directly to the project since we started.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a surprising number. It's really cool. It's fun to start seeing the I don't want to quite say the maturation of a project, but it's
The fruits of your labor.
exactly, it's coming into something that can now I love that we're looking at audio. This is a great example. Now we can collect and have a library of, for example, audio files, right? And tie them to a location, a time, a date. That's the beauty of a map. And now we're making it interactive. You can listen, you can get there in 3D if you want, and sit and look around while you're listening to the sound and kind of put yourself there. Like you said, it's an experience, and you don't really even have to leave your office or your phone if you don't want to. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. At least I think it is. So I'm a little biased.
No, it is. Like, I spent hours just looking at stuff today, like, on the website, like, just looking at the map and, like, looking at all the pictures and, like, it's crazy. Some of the pictures that these people submit, I'm like, oh my God.
Did you look at the...
And then, like, people are so, like, I measured the steps in between, or the spaces in between the steps.
Yeah.
It was approximately 59 inches.
I know which one you're talking about.
Like, height. Yeah, like, I'm this height, and I tried to recreate it, and I fell short every time, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Were there pictures in the snow, the one you're talking about? Is that the...
Yes, I think so.
Yep, I know exactly. That was one of the fairly recent ones, too. One of the blue ones, right? It was up in... where was that? That was up in Pennsylvania, near
I think so, yeah.
I've actually been through there. It's a very, very Schuylkill. That's how you say that area there.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's spelled SCHULY, UYLKILL, Schuylkill. A little bit of local pronunciation.
The English language.
Yeah, exactly. One of those words.
Baby.
But this one was actually really interesting. Maybe we can cover that next after the Virginia audio.
Yeah. What the hell did we just hear? Because that sounded like a bear on like a whirligig. Like I don't even know what it's called, but just
Yeah.
like if I heard that in the woods, I would just say nothing would be in my bowels. Like that's all I'm gonna say. I'm like everything gone. Holy crap! If I heard that in the middle of the night, I'd be scared.
Yeah, and that was at night, if I remember correctly from the report. I'm curious. Before I give my thoughts on what it's similar to, I'm like Gil, a bear on a whirligig. Maybe that could be the name of the episode. That's a great.
I feel that too. Yeah,
I kind of like
the
that.
sound I hear.
Yeah,
I'm feeling that.
like a Doppler.
Or
Bear
like
on
the
a whirligig.
Imperial,
Yeah,
or like the
Okay,
Star
so
Wars marching.
Chewbacca.
planes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Chewbacca.
Chewbacca on the power tower. Like, either way, I just and like this is not a knock at all to the recording or the process of the recording or the people that did the recording. It's just hearing it out of context. Just to me breeds questions of like, what the hell did I just hear? Like it's like it's so disconnected from the auditory expectations that I would have in day-to-day life that I'm just like, where was that? How was that? What was that? Like I have so many questions here. Everything starts with a noun. What's going on?
Yeah, like
here?
what animal makes that noise?
You're going through your mental catalog of what makes this. Have I heard this? And like, for me, it's like, all right, is this? It sounds like a cow. I've heard cows make similar noises, but then not quite like that, right? Mountain lion.
It's a stretch.
They make similar sounds to that. Similar.
Yeah.
But exactly, it's like but not quite.
Not really.
And so
mountain lions sound like a little girl screaming.
It's like if
in
a
the
mountain
woods.
lion stubbed its toe.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that scene in the movie Annihilation.
Yeah, that's
Remember
right.
when
That's
the
what I
bear,
was thinking. Yeah.
when the bear that gets like morphed into the people, and like can use their voice box? That's what it sounds like to me.
Well,
and
that's
that's like one of the creepiest scenes ever.
that's interesting that you say.
I've never seen that movie, but I need to see it just based
Read
on
the
what
book
you said.
first, though.
It's really good. It's really scary too.
It's interesting that you say that it could use its voice box. I mean, that's what jumps to mind for you first, is that it's something using human, speech or vocals and.
I mean, it does seem like Bigfoot's just going on a whirligig, like woo, woo.
Maybe he was.
It kind of.
And then like he's just the Bigfoot's big kilometers, just having this great time and loving life.
Hey, I'm jealous if that's what he's doing. Sounds like fun.
If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. Second off, I just want to say the way that, at least for myself, that I deal with intense anxiety, stress, fear, things of this nature is with humor. Because, hey, congratulations, didn't have a healthy childhood. So, like, the first step that I take with overwhelming senses of, like, fear or disturbance is, like, humor. This is not at all a knock on the recording or the experience, because dear God, I wouldn't be able to laugh if I was there actually recording this.
And
it would have been the serious thing, the most serious thing in the world to me.
I think maybe to put it in context, reading some highlights from the report might actually be good for the listeners.
Yeah.
So they know
Please do.
what was going on. So the report starts with describe your encounter, and it says, my friend and I were sitting in the parking lot of Mountain View General Store in West Augusta, Virginia, on the border of Highland County, one night just talking in the car. Our conversation was interrupted by a shockingly loud, echoing noise booming up the valley. And that's one thing. This is my comment, not in the report, but they were probably recording on like their cell phone. So the acoustics of things coming up the valley, it's.
And they're in a car.
Exactly. What was really recorded probably sounds much different than what they were experiencing, right? And the low frequencies that penetrate further, and like they were saying, they seem booming. It's something to keep in mind. So they probably felt that vocalization just as much as they were hearing it, because the low frequency travels much further than the high frequency does. So the store is located in tens of thousands of acres of national forest and borders the least populated county in Virginia. The sound was so loud that it interrupted the conversation we were having inside of the truck. So, I mean, just think about that. If something's going to interrupt you inside your closed vehicle while you're talking, it's definitely quite loud. So, I think hopefully that puts the users into the experience a bit of trying to imagine what the environment was like while the people that were the witnesses were hearing that noise. I think that's the valuable thing about having a report to accompany the file, so you can the context. It's really important. So
that literally to me is the same as like us while we're sitting here. We're doing our best to have a quiet atmosphere, right, around us, and then we hear like coming in, like that's shocking. Like, that's horrifying. Like, you're literally sitting here, you're trying to have a calm, peaceful discussion. Frankly, I mean, to these folks, they have to really have it in their mind. We're in the middle of nowhere in a parking lot, probably at night. There ain't a single person in the world that's going to interrupt us. And then we hear, like, that's horrifying, dude. Like, it's raising the hairs on my skin. Like, that's so creepy.
Everyone's had that feeling when you're even just walking, like they were in a parking lot. You're walking, if you're the only one walking in the dark to your car in the parking lot and anything's out. I get it. Everyone knows this meme, but it's like, if I'm shutting the lights off and I'm at the bottom of the stairs, I'm going to bolt. And I'm in my own house. Right? I'm going to run to the top because there's something behind me. I just know it. So imagine that feeling.
Yeah, I'm in my own house. Time. I know what's behind me.
It's like, imagine that feeling and knowing there's something out there that you can't identify because you're hearing it. So for them, this must stand out to them as one of probably a terrifying experience that they remember. And it's things like that hopefully we can solve through gathering data, right? So it's I guess with that. Oh, go ahead, Gil. Sorry, I see you're bursting at the seams with a question.
I'm always biting at the bit. So I will say too. You work in data. Data is not the end all be all of solutions, of answers, of everything. It's always a percentage towards a conclusion. I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm assuming you feel the same pangs in your life that I do when I'm in marketing.
Absolutely.
and I want to say that honestly, all right, so this is a stretch here, but it makes sense in my head, so I hope I've done a good enough job narrating it in other cases. With abductions, right? With alien abductions, okay? It's not so much the recounting of the stories. It's not so much the familiarity. It's the fact that there's a basis that's being built. There's a standard that's being built. For some folks, they feel comfort in data. But as you know, Scott, working in data, 60-70% of folks are like, my eyes just glazed over. What did you just say? When we start talking data in our day jobs, right? Like, they're just like, what? Like, like, it's hard. But for a percentage of folks, it means the goddamn world. Because they're like, I can point to this. This means something. I'm not crazy. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't this. It was da-da-da-da-da. I was on the same road that I told you about 6 years ago when this happened. Da-da-da-da-da. Like, it means people's lives, man. Like, honestly, like, what these reports mean is, like, when folks are wrapped up in experiencing something that's, I don't know if this is a phrase, non-experiential, right? In the sense of, like, a non-familiarity to folks. Like, it's not an experience that people expect to anybody to have ever experienced. It's non-experiential. I'm making some shit up on the fly here.
I like it. Let's go with it.
But when somebody experiences that, to me, from reading through all these reports from different episodes of the show, doesn't matter if it's Bigfoot, doesn't matter if it's aliens, doesn't matter if it's ghosts or what have you, any cryptid, insert the name. It's having some relation of reality that they can just reach out and put their nails into the soil and grab onto it as they're falling backwards. That's the most important thing. And that's what I really see in your project, is like, it's just like, hey, I'm delivering this to you non-biased. I'm just delivering these stories to you. Anybody can hop in and say it. But when you're sitting there and you're feeling insane, right? When you're feeling crazy, when you're questioning your own reality, your own life, your own everything, you can go back and you can be like, here's 6 other people that drove down that same country highway that explained the same thing. It had red hair. It was standing at this height. It was da-da-da-da-da. It was this. It was that. The same footprints that I sent you, that I texted you that morning, boom, go look at that. I have nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. And like, that's the honesty behind it, which I love about your project. I'm sorry, I'm just like grandstanding your project right now, but that's what I feel behind it, is that it's an honesty. But it's that beauty behind it, where it's just like, take it and run with it. There's an anonymity to it, and yeah, that's why we love you, Scott. That's all I'm saying.
Well, where do I go from there?
Run with it, my man. Run.
I mean, for real, this was a...
Have a good night, y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. But yeah, I think if I can tag on to what you're saying, that's one of the reasons, like, when you think about having worked and having a career in analyzing data, managing data, and not to throw that word around too much, but there is an element to some organizations and some sources where they're very protective of their data set, and they don't publish it. You have to subscribe, you have to have credentials, you have to be in, you have to be part of the community, you have to be accepted, etc., or you have to even pay sometimes, right, to get the data you're after. And that is not how, in my opinion, that is not the best way to get answers and get information from people who might otherwise be skeptical or scared to share their reports. In my experience, having worked with a lot of people in a different part of my career, out in doing seismic exploration, one of the easiest ways to get information from people in a genuine way is to actually listen and give them the platform, right? If you notice, this is, I'm not shoving my opinion down your throat when you get into the app, for example. This is the user's platform. I'm just asking for a submission if they've had an experience, and then you're free to go explore, and that's it. Like, there's no requirements. It's free. Get out there, explore, learn, come to your own conclusions, come to your own truth. But what I'm trying to do is, with that, I do share what I interpret, and I ask questions through Instagram by making maps and things like that. But I am by no means trying to influence through the actual platform what people are taking away. This is as unbiased as it gets, and I'm trying to make it as digestible as possible for people who might not be familiar with maps, or how to filter through data, or how to get at a trend. So I'm just doing my best to be a good translator from report to reader, basically. So that's what this is trying to accomplish, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Gil, when you started saying that before, and I just wanted to tag on to that, because you're right. This is something that should be viewed more as a resource, and I hope that's what it becomes. So I think we're getting there. I think we really are. And I think the sheer number of reports that you're seeing light up on the map in the last few weeks is actually a lot of fun for me, because it's kind of growing. I don't want to say exponentially, but there's a growth to the number of submissions I'm getting, and it's on an upward trend. So we're getting some traction. We're getting recordings and pictures, like you were saying, where people are now like, oh, I get emails. I found your website and I've been trying to get this sighting to somebody forever, and finally I was able to put it in and put it in the map. Like, it's, the saying goes, it's on the map. And um, that's what this is all about, because the the big data principle is the more data we get, the crap's gonna fall out, right? The stuff that's on either end of the bell curve is just gonna be identifiable. We're gonna get rid of it, but we're gonna get to the meat of things, and we're gonna be able to identify regions, behaviors, calls, hopefully tracks, all of these things. Where's the highest concentration of tracks in the U.S.? We can find that. Where's the highest concentration of vocalizations? When do they occur? Those types of things now are easily reportable almost instantly out of this database. So it's a lot of fun if you're a nerd, I guess. So, but yeah, I'm not saying I am definitely a nerd. So, but Mississippi, if I can jump back talking about vocalizations and actually building a library of files and a repository, Mississippi in Rankin County, I think, takes the cake for. It's a very recent sighting. It just happened January 6th, or I shouldn't say sighting. I should say encounter or report, because it is just vocalizations. But it's very recent. It's got a ton of. I'll talk about the recording first. It's very long. It's 8 minutes long, and it's got 11 clear, interesting, very identifiable vocalizations. And one of the things I did in this recording is I found a very cool tool called a spectrogram, which produces a spectrograph, which measures the kilohertz of the sounds in the entire recording. And Joey, you can probably explain this better because you're the audio professional. But don't mean to put you on the spot, but this vocalization's at 0.7 kilohertz, which is, I believe, 0.7 kilohertz is 7,000 megahertz. Is that right? Kilo is 1,000. Yeah, so I think it's seven. Yeah, something like that, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, math nerds. I'm a map nerd, not a math nerd. So I know. I think I want to. There's a for this witness that submitted this also gave us some best found at and timestamps in the recording. So 40, maybe 148 to 218 is actually a great little slot range to play. Um, yep, 148 to 218. And these, I think, when you hear them, I'm gonna watch your faces.
Okay, I
That
just
sounded
want
like a
to say,
dinosaur.
I can
Sounds like a T-Rex.
Okay, I thought it
I
sounded
can
like
hear-
a small town in Mexico, and it's the guy that walks around with selling the camotes.
yes, coconut. Oh my god.
That's what it sounded like. I was like, oh, is this in Mexico?
I've heard this.
Smack
No,
dab in the center of Mississippi. Yep.
Wow.
I can hear the microphone on the cell phone.
Mhm.
Trying to distinguish between sounds closest to it and sounds farther away. Like, that's what I'm hearing there. Is like there's some really crisp birds. There's some dogs slightly farther away. I'm assuming hunting dogs that are a little bit farther away. But then
What kind of dogs?
humping dogs that are slightly farther away. But then there's this sound that's just like echoing through, I'm assuming the bayou if it's in Mississippi. Like it's just echoing through the woods.
Yeah, it's actually right.
Jesus Christ.
It's right next to
Like,
a reservoir, so it's a fairly sparse
okay.
area. Yeah. It's interesting.
You said what time does it start?
Oh, the one you just played was 1:48 to maybe
Okay.
2:18, and then the next best one is at 4:02. And it kind of stops after that. It just goes for a
Okay.
few minutes without having any vocalizations.
Which I want to say appreciate to anybody out here tracking, doing anything with cryptids, where it's just like you actually record a few minutes before and a few minutes after. That is the biggest issue. If you're recording a UFO, for the love of God, just record like 2 minutes after the UFO disappears. Just please, for the love of God, just record afterwards, because we have so many clips where it's like, this is 2 seconds. It's like, whoop. And you're just like,
going,
I
what
know,
just
I
happened?
hate that.
What did I
I
just
hate
see?
that.
It's just like, I don't even know where I'm at. Like, show me a street light, something, anything. Like,
Yeah.
let me identify
And why is
this.
the
But like
quality
in this
always
world,
so
in this day and age,
bad? I'm like, it's 2023 and the quality still looks like it's from the 90s. Why?
right? I'm not gonna knock that, because it's, if anybody has gone out and tried to take a photo of the moon, you
Mhm.
know what it looks like on your phone. It always looks like shit. I don't care what type of phone you have. It looks like shit if you're trying to take a
No,
photo
no,
of the
no.
moon.
I've seen
So I
really
ain't gonna
good
knock
photos
that.
that are shot with the iPhone, and it looks amazing. It's like I'm just gonna stop shooting weddings with my
They
phone.
Impossible.
probably have like additional lenses.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I know.
Why are all these videos of Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff? The quality is always bad.
Well, like there's lenses you can like clip to your phone and stuff to like magnify stuff and whatever. But like if you're like there and you're like, whoa, a UFO, you're not gonna be like, let me run inside and get my magnifying. Like Betsy would want me
Yes,
to.
I demand it.
Remember?
I no, Betsabe. Sorry, Joey. I'm sticking with this. Joey, Betsabe, our two close friends, and I all saw a UFO on New Year's Eve. Not a single one of us took a photo, and I will stand by that till the end of time. 4 professional photographers and videographers, not one pulled out their phone to take a photo of this shit. So I don't want to hear anything about like, oh, well, you should just light it up, or it's an Android, or it's an iPhone. No, it's not. When this shit happens, you're in shock. I stick with
Oh,
them.
yeah.
That's all.
Fine.
That's all.
Yes.
Shock or confusion, or even like recently, this is a mundane encounter, right? I was walking out at like lunchtime from my where I'd been sitting hunting, and all of a sudden a coyote pops his face right up out of the grass.
Whoa.
I don't know,
Yeah.
10 feet from me, and we both did the, what are you doing here? Like, and by the time I could even think of what I was gonna do, like get my rifle off my shoulder, he's gone. So like, and that's just, I'm looking for that wildlife, right? So imagine if you're seeing something you don't know what it is, and you're confused, and the buffering between your brain
Yes.
and your actions
Yeah.
just, it's just still spinning by the time everything's done.
True.
So
True.
And it's a 1.5 feet taller than you, a 1.5
Right.
feet wider than you.
Right.
You're just like, I
Yeah.
would shut down.
yeah, very easy to do.
All right.
This recording though is interesting. I wanted to touch on one thing if I may. This submission, I posted it and the analysis on Instagram and YouTube, and It's really interesting that this has sparked kind of a community. The original poster, the person who submitted this, commented on the Instagram post, and
Nice.
people came out of the woodwork to like offer their help and go hike and search, and they're actually of course you get some comments that are not, very constructive.
Meh.
But I really am pleased to see that overall people are very kind and supportive, and it's I wish they would put their sightings that they shared in the comments into the project too. But it sparked some other people to share their experiences, and that's what a big part of the project is about, is also spreading awareness and getting more people in. So it's really this is a very recent report, and it's just fresh on my mind that I'm seeing this unfold practically while we're on the podcast, right? It's still the conversations are still going back and forth, so it's really interesting.
So I'm at 411. Is that good?
I think they said 402. 402 is what she said.
I'm gonna...
It's like Bigfoot's doing his PR at the gym. Just
I mean,
and then
he may
slams
be,
it down,
right? But
Yep.
I don't know what to think. But this is the kind of conversation I'm glad to have with you guys, because you definitely share perspectives that I definitely wouldn't think about. So yeah, that's
It's
interesting.
they all sound, all the sounds of them, they sound prehistoric, that it all does sound like something we haven't heard before. But prehistoric, I guess, is something that we have in our imagination, because we look at Jurassic Park and how they made those sounds was I forgot how they made those sounds, but it was like was it a cow or something?
I think they merged like a lion, a tiger, a cat, like a bunch of different noises together, to make that
like big bellowing sound. And so, because we could never know what it sounded
Wow,
like
that is
prehistoric,
so
right?
true. I never thought about that. It's like, yeah, no one really knows how it sounded.
Yeah, that's true. It could have. We'll never know. But
I mean, Jeff Goldblum is a notorious time traveler, but I mean, we can. Yes, we all know. But it does sound very what we would consider prehistoric, I guess, to me.
I can't quite put my finger on what the similarities between all three recordings. What are one of the things that really grabbed my attention? They're all. The UK in this particular one, the UK and the Mississippi one are very similar, I think, even though you don't hear a ton of vocalizations from the UK recording. But I think they're very similar. And then the Virginia one is very interesting because it's just a little different, and it's more frequent in between vocalizations. So I just wonder about, it makes me think, like, what are the behaviors? Why are they... One in the UK, it was during the daytime. These two were at night in the US. Like, what are these behaviors? What if it's a Bigfoot? What are these vocalizations signaling? Is it a warning? Is it a mating? What are these? What are these calls? It's very interesting, and I just don't have enough samples yet to really pin down my thoughts.
I wanna push back a little bit in the most loving way possible. Could you play us a recording from a troll?
I actually
would you be?
I don't have any.
Would you be able to throw up any? What would be the best fake that you've
you mean
come
in
across?
general? Okay.
Yeah. Like, I would like to hear, because like I feel like you hear a lot of these. Obviously, you hear every report. There's 8,000 reports plus growing, and it's an awesome database. But I feel like there's some subtleties that I myself, and I'm assuming if I myself can't like pick up on some of it, some of our listeners might not also be able to pick up on. Like, there's probably some strong subtleties here.
Yeah, there probably are.
I'm
I'm just thinking out loud about like the best. I wouldn't even say a troll. but we could definitely go find recordings of Bigfoot researchers doing their own howls, right? And their own vocalizations, calls. I mean, there's tons of recordings on the internet, so we can go verifiably watch a human make these sounds, you know? Like
I wanna hear that, and like it's not to like push back against you, but to like
No, I think
literally
it's-
like I'm hearing subtleties in your tone, and I'm like, I want to know what that means. Like that's my feeling, is like I'm hearing this like I'm hearing these like bellowing like Bigfoot sounds, and I'm like, what do the fakes sound like? What do you hear where you're like delete and you just move on to the next one? Like, what does that moment feel like?
Luckily, I haven't had any. I hope you're not encouraging them, but I haven't had any trolls.
Everybody,
submit-
so you're gonna hit up Scott at the. No, I'm just kidding.
I haven't had
No.
any trolls submit what sounds like a fake audio recording or like just something that's garbage. These are the only three in the database so far, and they're clearly not trolls. They're something that's far away and not absurd sounding, right? Where it's definitely you click on it and you hear it and you're like, oh, this person is yelling into their phone. Clearly, you know, this person's recording their father in the bathroom. Woof, you know. So
it's just their dad snoring.
exactly, something like that. So no, I haven't run into that yet, but yeah, I mean maybe we can pull up a recording somewhere. I just don't know about copyright. Like the first show that jumps to mind is like Finding Bigfoot, where they're yelling on the YouTube. I just don't know about replaying their material on a podcast. So. But the guy that jumps to mind that does the best call is like Bobo, right? Like he's world renowned for his Bigfoot bellow.
Thank you so much for listening to the Black Cat Report and our second interview with Scott Tompkins of the Bigfoot Mapping Project. We always love talking with him and getting the news on his project. Remember to like, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, follow us on Instagram to get the news as it comes fresh off the presses. Now let's get back to the interview.
Okay. So, date and time of sighting. January 7th, 2017 at 11:40 a.m. My uncle was walking his dog on our hunting club land and came across these tracks in the snow. He called me and I arrived 15 minutes later. The tracks were heading south towards the Appalachian Trail, which is only a few miles away. The tracks actually stopped at one point and doubled back the way they came. The tracks disappeared up a small embankment where there was a cornfield. Our thought was that the creature saw my uncle walking his dog and decided to remain unseen and hid in the adjacent field. The tracks were around 14 inches long, and I measured the stride between each print. They were around 58 inches long, which shocked me. I tried recreating them and could not without coming up short. I'm 6 foot, and it was a struggle to get the stride. We also felt it was either female or a juvenile because the prints weren't huge compared to others I've seen. I will update any other finds. Our land seems to have a lot of activity. Wood knocks and tree structures are common around it. And then they have these crazy pictures of footprints that are just like so clear. There's like, I don't even know, let me count them. 1, 2, and they have like a tape measure out. 3, 4, 5 pictures of like these really crazy looking footprints.
Send them to me.
For you out there, we'll include them in the show notes.
Yep, I'll send a link to this post.
Yay! Yeah, I was just reading all these stories this morning and I was like, oh my god. And then I found one in New Jersey that I have to send to my sister because she lives in New Jersey. It's from like 1987 or something like that, but I'm still like, ooh.
It's real. Well, that's really
Better close your curtains at night.
Exactly. I think, yeah, and when you're looking at that sighting you were just reading, there are 3 others that were submitted along the Appalachian Trail there, kind of in sequence, right? This would be the northernmost one, neon blue. It'll be a red Bigfoot on the map after the neon light goes away, highlighting it. And then there's 3 others, right? So like, there's a sighting. These don't necessarily all have wonderful reports. These are historical ones, right? So let's see, the first one just due south of it was a sighting, and this is from the Bigfoot Society. Oh, their website must be down, must not exist anymore. Some of these URLs are dead.
Oh no.
That's what happens, yeah. The PA Bigfoot Society, yep. I can't get to them. That's sad.
So is
one's
Bigfoot
here to
in
be a far
Mexico
road,
also, or just is in the US and Canada?
That's a
I
great
think-
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Selena.
Let's-
Sorry.
Let's dig into those. Let's dig into those questions.
Well, yeah, it's like I always
Well,
hear
I was just
about
gonna
it.
say, like, I just think it's like the people that are submitting are. Oh, I thought you meant based
No,
on the
like
map.
like in general.
I was like, I think the people that are submitting are just people that live in this area, but like.
Because I've always heard about Bigfoot
I
and
don't know
the
if I've
US.
ever heard of Bigfoot. I've always heard of like gnomes or like little creatures. Like I've never really heard about like Bigfoot.
Like in Mexico?
Have you, Betsabe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like I've never heard of sightings of Bigfoot in Mexico or anything about it. I mean, I didn't know about Bigfoot until I moved here and people were talking about it. And I've heard like also they've been sightings in Canada, but that's it. Like it's like, do they just not want to cross the border to Mexico, or is there something going on that we don't know that like the government, I don't know. Is he not welcome in Mexico?
I do want to throw it out there. Okay, so this, Scott, you've had more experience with this than we have.
Yeah, this question was
So-
for
so
Scott.
we're yeah, like Scott, we got some questions
Yeah,
for
Scott,
you.
is
Okay, so
Bigfoot
for
in
the listeners
Mexico?
who have made it, yeah, so for the listeners who've made it in this far, we got some questions for you, man. We're coming in hard later. Okay,
Ooh.
so
I'm nervous
yes.
now. Are you just building up to it?
Yes, yeah, no, we're coming in. First off, Bigfoot community, almost impossible to interview. It doesn't matter what happens. The only thing more blurry than Bigfoot is Bigfoot investigators trying to get a hold of them to just ask them basic questions. Super hard. So, throwing it out there. There's shade thrown. Anyways, but I do have the question. So, Mount St. Helens blew up 1990s. Pretty big deal in American history. We don't really get taught it. Surprise, surprise. But just saying. There was actually a surprising number of reports of Bigfoot migrating away from the explosion site of this massive volcano in Washington, blowing its top and ruining everything around it. There were reports of black helicopters. There were reports of government coming in, special operations units, like all sorts of crazy shit going on, clearing out Bigfoot. What the hell's going on with that? like if there is some natural eruption, right? If there is some like thing where it's just like let's just say like Yellowstone if it blew, right? Like some major event taking place, Bigfoot's gonna scatter. They're an animal. I'm not presupposing that they're any more special than anything else, and they're just like, we need to GTFO, right? Like we need to get the F out of here, and we need to figure out somewhere else to go. Where's the data showing us that they're at? Where are they moving to? How does this happen in those time periods? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I've never actually looked at the data in that way. Around like a natural disaster, not just volcano eruptions, but hurricanes, blizzards, etc. I mean, those are all things that obviously affect wildlife And I think I'd hate to make up an answer if I haven't really examined it, but that is definitely something that points me towards a new lens or a new way to analyze the data, to look at the reports that occur around a natural disaster, earthquake, volcano eruption, those types of things. I think that's a really interesting thought. I mean, that's a great example of how sometimes even being buried in the data, you don't come up to the surface to think of a different way to look at it. You kind of get in your own little echo chamber sometimes. So, I wish I had a wonderfully conclusive answer for you, but no. Instead, I've just been inspired and pointed in new directions. So don't be surprised when you see that on Instagram.
But that's the honesty we love, and to back up Betsabe here, tell us about Mexican Bigfoot. What is going on in Oaxaca? Tell me.
So the best I
what
could
is
do,
going on in Mexico?
The best I could do is I could find land use and land type, forest type parallels, right? By using the extensive data set we've got in the U.S., I could find like an analog in Mexico where the environmental parameters match the highest rate of sightings and things like that. That's what I would do, is I'd build a model to predict where the parts of Mexico that would be most likely to be Bigfoot habitat. I on a whole, I couldn't tell you very much because I don't have a lot of data, but that's what you do when you do have data in other places, and particularly in like exploration, or you have some base information that you can at least line up. And in this case, it would be land type, land use, forest type, those geological and environmental data sets, so that I could pull what I do know from the US and Canada and other reports. There's European reports and Australian reports, Alaskan reports, and kind of apply that as best I could and predict. But that's probably as good as I could do. So, I mean, if you notice, the closest we get to Mexico with some reports is in there's one on the border in Arizona. There's some near Juarez in West Texas. There are a few in, there's one outside of Piedras Negras, just north. And that's about it on the border in South Texas and West Texas. So none in New Mexico on the border, but New Mexico is not very populated. So you need people to have a sighting. But Arizona, and then in California as well, there's two on the border. There's a footprint found just east of Tecate and north of the fun town of Tijuana. So,
yay!
Yeah,
My grandparents have a house there.
really,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So this to me screams the fact that every populated place on the planet has a story, has a legend, has tales, has regular reports of Bigfoot, of Sasquatch, of Yeti, of Yaren, of, like, go down the line, like, find a name, it's there. Every place on the planet has this. The fact that the Bigfoot Mapping Project has a limited reach currently, that speaks to me more about the reach of the English language and exposure
That's a good point.
than it does reports. Right? So if we want to get into the Yari, if we want to get into the Yeti, if we want to get into, go across the planet, find a place, you will find a Bigfoot, right? You will find some version of the even down to Antarctica. You will find a version of the Bigfoot that exists there. Yes. And it's like, this is a reach of the project. This is not a reach of the reports. This is not a reach of the experiences. This is just who knows about the Bigfoot Mapping Project, who has submitted to it.
True. And that's a symptom of, just getting started. And like you said, the language barrier, and perhaps, even in China, there's some internet barriers, things like that. Yeah. So, the geopolitics and internet policy and all those types of things affect what people see. So it's interesting to think about it that way, because you assume once you put something up like that and it's out there, that everybody's just going to be a magnet and find it. And it's not the case. You've really got to be patient. And my philosophy is, if you notice, I don't do a lot of promotion per se. I'd rather word of mouth, because the nature of this project, I don't want to promote false information or people to get on and, I don't want the frenzy to mess up the curve and the data and mess up the information that's getting submitted. So I'm very careful with where and how I put this out there, and I am eager. I'm dying to get some South American, like Brazilian reports. There's a whole Amazon rainforest there that I know. There's uncontacted tribes, right? So I know there's stuff in the Amazon. Everyone knows, right? But just to get some information there is probably damn near impossible, right? It would be hard, because how many people really get that deep into the Amazon rainforest that aren't guides, researchers, or that don't live there, aren't doing some type of forestry or study or on the river or anything like that, or nature photography or environmentalists. You just don't get people there. So if there's one place on the earth that I would think would be one of the most remote and most likely to harbor something akin to a Bigfoot, I don't even know what you would call it in Brazil or in the rainforest there, what the name for it would be in the local terms. So yeah, but that's a great thing to touch on. We've most of the podcasts I've been on, which so many, just kidding.
God, you made us wait years.
Yeah, I know. You guys had to call my people. Oh, what a process.
People, and then they had to call your people, and then the people, and the people, and the
Sheesh,
people.
God
damn.
But but it's something that you're the first person to bring it up, is where we don't have sightings, right? The sightings reports, and Canada is sparse, and I might have mentioned it last time. I'm still going back and forth with Carrie Kilmurray, who is from Canada, and she has a huge database that she manages, and we're going back and forth. So we may figure out a way to integrate that database into the Bigfoot Mapping Project, assuming we can. She has some sightings that the witnesses don't want them to be reported, so of course we respect that, and we'll remove them from the data set. But that is a big thing to look forward to, hopefully very soon. And then I saw Betsabe, I saw your eyebrows raised when I said there's European reports, believe it or not. So we started with one in the UK, the vocalization, but there are some there's a Belgian Bigfoot. There's one.
I bet he's got nice hair.
Probably.
What?
Just like nice chestnut brown curls.
Cute.
There's one in the Netherlands. There's the one we listened to is in Lecrid, which is just outside of west of Wales. Then we've got there's one on the Isle of Man.
What?
Yeah, it's on an island in the UK.
It's like 6 people.
Yeah.
There's 6 people there.
Which that one is very interesting.
Literally the Isle of Man.
Yes, literally. That's why they named it. There was only one guy one guy living there when they found it.
Damn.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if that was the case.
I'd be so pissed if I was that guy. And all of a sudden all these people started moving in.
I'd be so pissed if I was that woman, like, dude. the fuck? Like just like sitting over here in the background, like what the fuck? I'm like,
It's
You mean there are others?
yeah, right.
What about Italy?
There's
Is there
one.
an Italian Bigfoot?
yeah.
There's one in Norway. Let me look at Italy. I don't think so.
Hmm.
Although one of my friends is from
shit.
Italy, and he could be mistaken for a Bigfoot there. Hopefully he listens.
Did you hold on? We need this on record. Scott Tompkins, did you just say that one of your friends could be mistaken for Bigfoot?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is nothing
Cool,
I
we
would
have
say
him on the other
directly to
line,
them,
so-
FYI.
This is where we degrade in the episode.
Yeah,
Alright.
well, we made it pretty far, honestly. I think we made it further than last time before we got into
Yes.
any. So there's also, very interestingly, some reports off the coast of Africa. In what country are we in?
Cape Horn.
Kind
West
of
Africa, Gabon.
these islands are
Madagascar.
off of Morocco, and they're I don't know how to say this. Forgive me. The name of the city on one island is Pahara, and Antigua.
Sounds right.
So
Antigua. Yeah.
there's 2 sightings on the end of the island
This
there.
is like Northwest Africa.
Yes, and
Okay.
it's the Canary Islands are where the sightings are.
Okay.
And then we've got another one on San Bartolome. So
Okay.
very interesting.
So I want to step back just a tiny bit from this, and this is important too, because like I feel like everybody just followed us down a rabbit hole of thought, of looking into the reports, of seeing the recorded experiences. This is a lot. Why isn't there a body?
That's interesting.
question.
There's theories that
Honestly, that's my question. And this is from somebody who believes in Bigfoot.
no, I think that's a very good
This is
question.
everywhere.
Yeah, I think particularly I'll start where one of the densest populations of Bigfoot would
Pacific
be.
Northwest.
Pacific Northwest,
Okay.
and I think you probably know where I'm going with this on body wise.
Portland, obviously, where all freaks exist.
Yeah. But
Say that with love, Portland.
decay in that particular part of the world, right? So naturally, if you're asking me where you want to find a body of a Bigfoot, or you go to where the most of them would theoretically be, right? Because that's where you're going to likely find the most remains. And when you go there, I mean, when you're walking in those forests and you see how dense it is,
Yes.
it's going to be hard to find a body unless there's been some scavengers, birds, mountain lions, etc. Mountain lions also, if they do eat the remains, they also hide they cache their prey, but like behind a log, and they cover it up. So things like that could happen. Or there's also theories, and I don't really this is where the map kind of falls off into the behavior side, but talking with a lot of researchers, there are theories that the Bigfoot bury their deceased. So
Yes.
if they're buried, I mean, you're likely not going to find it, and if it's there long enough, the acidity in the soil hastens the decay. So I don't think it's there very long, right? So buried plus decaying very quickly. Pair that up with being deep in the dense forest where it's hard to get to, on a steep incline, in some cases very steep in the mountains there. It's just, a perfect storm of people go there. I mean, I think there's how many hikers get lost and they never find their bodies out in the, and they know what trail they were on. They know where to look. I mean, just to point that out along with those other points, which I'm not saying, I don't think it's very reasonable that we haven't found a body. Maybe somebody has, and they didn't know what it was. If it's in a certain state of decay, there's a point where you wouldn't really know what you're looking at, and you might think it's a bear or a moose or an elk or So there's a lot of factors that could explain, at least logically, why we haven't found a body. We very well could have, and just filed it away as, oh, that's a dead elk. I'm not going over there. If there's flies buzzing around, I'm not going to go check that out. You know, a lot of people would think like, oh, something dead. I'm not going to go look. But Bigfoot researchers may. I mean, they're a special breed, so
Very special.
So yeah, I mean,
wanna...
Go ahead, Gil. Sorry.
Yeah. So what always stands out to me, David Pallades.
Yeah, he just
missing
had a new special.
411. Yes. UFO Connection. Selena and I both watched it. Shit's good as fuck.
It's really
good. You should go check it out. We are not sponsored. I'm just straight up saying it's good. That's all I'm saying. I think Selena and I we watched it at home, and then we watched it at my family's house. Watched it literally at my family's. We're like, yeah, this is worth a rewatch here. It's fucking good.
I enjoyed it. I just watched it last week. It's really good.
It's good, dude. It's fucking good. Spoilers, if you watch that episode, there will be future episodes of the show based on that. But in all fairness, we had it planned. Anyways, so how do I frame this? All right, so here's my biggest question as somebody who believes in Bigfoot. All right, I'm just coming out with my bias. I believe in Bigfoot. I 100% believe in Bigfoot. I grew up in a family that very much supports how do I frame this? A native view of things. Okay. Strong on my bias. Okay, I'm going to say that. Where is another animal that is needed this much defending in terms of it existing? So, perfect example, the pandas, 1970s.
Aww.
Up until the 1970s, pandas weren't believed to have existed, right? Like the general belief around pandas into the 1970s. By the way, if anybody else is really into old anime, they were a hallmark of old anime before they existed in general science, in general God, this is fucked up. In general European science. That's the reality of it. I'm not going to reframe it. White folks accepted they were real. They were real. That's what actually took place. I'm not going to reframe that. So in the 1970s, white folks were like, okay, I guess pandas exist. And now they existed to the rest of the world. That's literally what happened. Go quote me on that shit. So that's what took place. So what other animal in history has needed this much defense? I'm sorry. I'm really digging here to try to find a new Bigfoot question.
That was a great.
But
there's one that pops
that's
right.
the real truth.
One that pops right to mind is the mountain gorilla.
Okay.
Instantly.
Mountain gorilla, silverback.
Absolutely. Yeah, silverback mountain
Yes,
gorillas.
no?
They were
Okay.
lore. That's how they were discovered. Was a similar scenario where European explorers and scientists were in speaking with the locals, and they told them about these gorillas that lived in the forest, and
Yeah.
they were
What were
mythical.
they called? Like the Foggy Mountain or the Misty Mountain, or
I don't know.
do you know what I'm talking
Actually, I don't know.
Sorry.
But I just bought a book on it, and I need to read it, so I will know. I will let you know when I get through the book. But that is an immediate example that jumps to mind is the mountain gorilla. That was a very similar case where up until the 1920s or 30s is when they were officially discovered in Western science, right?
I've never heard of it.
So, yeah, mountain gorilla. I'm gonna Google it. I'm sitting right in front of my computer.
about?
Yeah, me too. I've never heard of it.
I'm pretty sure they were called.
And honestly, there's always new species of animal being discovered in like different parts of the world. like things that they're like, we think this might exist, but we've never actually seen one. And then it's like, we finally got one after thinking
Giant
it
squid.
existed for about like
Giant squid.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Another one.
Thank you. I'm pretty
I'm
sure
also
that was
just
like the
thinking of, like,
1990s, early
a new
2000s giant
species
squid. It
of
was
frog
like, I'm
or
here.
like
Oh yeah,
yeah.
the mountain gorilla was 1902. I was
that's-
being dyslexic with the numbers.
That's
but
the Tarzan
1902
one, the one from the movie Tarzan. That's the mountain gorilla.
Yeah.
That's why the movie King
They-
Kong was so popular and all of that. Yeah.
Yep.
They're huge.
Yeah. And I bring these things out not necessarily to counter Scott or to counter folks that believe in Bigfoot, and I'm not lumping Scott into that, but I am saying he runs a website dedicated to Bigfoot.
I believe in Bigfoot. It's okay.
We heard it here. That's our
Bigfoot's real.
soundbite, Joey. All right, let's go.
That's all we need for the episode.
but I am saying like these are legitimate attacks, like poised against the argument of Bigfoot, against the argument of Sasquatch. Is like, what the fuck other animal has to deal with this? Straight up, like what
Yeah.
other animal has to da 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 and this and that and the other, and for so many years it's just footprints, and it's just ass prints in snow, and it's just casts that are being made, and it's just blurry. No, ass prints in snow. Selena's making a face. Ass prints in snow, literally a thing in the Bigfoot community. So
I've seen that
I'm gonna
video.
go ahead and say that I've listened to enough old Art Bell tapes. I know this was a thing for a while in the 90s.
Piece of advice: don't try to recreate that. Bad idea.
So you will get 10,000 Instagram followers. So
That's the year I lost my ass.
6 people got that joke. But I'm just saying, like, there's recreations, and there's this, and there's that, and there's the other, and it's like, what other animal, dude? Like, what other thing? What are the like, the arguments keep going on, but the fact is, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Scott, but like, this is a normal thing in discovering animals. This is an especially normal thing in discovering large mammals. This has been so fucking common in the history of basically after like the 1700s. Every time we discovered a large mammal, it was a huge fucking debate for about 60, 70, 150 years. Like every goddamn time it was like, oh no, they don't exist. The silverback gorilla. Oh shit, there's one right there. Like every goddamn time this has happened. And I really do feel like we're on the precipice of one.
I hope we
That's
are.
my
I hope we
spiel.
are. I mean, just to bring some other examples, like there's a fairly recent one in New York where they shot what they thought was a coyote, and they did the DNA testing on it. It was 99% wolf. So people for, again, probably hundreds of years. I don't know how long the wolf has been extinct in New York, or at least not recognized as a living
Long
species in the
time.
state, right?
Yeah.
So, that's one that we know wolves exist. We know that they used to live there, and now people deny. Nope, we don't have wolves in New York. They don't live here. Until now, somebody shot one, and they have the DNA, and they did the testing, and it's verifiably 99% wolf, right? And another animal that is very prevalent in most of the United States is the mountain lion, right? And a lot of people deny that the mountain lions exist in the Northeast, right? That's another one. Nope, mountain lions. Being from New York, this is something we always talk about, right? Like people, there's rumors growing up that Fawnstock State Park's full of mountain lions, right? 200-pound cats. Yep, my grandfather's seen them. We've seen them, but the DEC, doesn't exist. So it goes to another point. It's like, okay, who do you believe? People who are just not out there every day, like the DEC, for example. Wonderful agency, very knowledgeable people.
DEC stands for
Department of Environmental Conservation.
okay, sorry.
So in New York, that's the New York State DEC. is what it is. And sorry, I should have explained that. And
You're good. You're good.
so these are scientists. These are people that work. They're environmentally educated. They're aware. They're knowledgeable. But they will put their foot down and just say, nope, mountain lions don't exist. But there's people seeing them, right? It's the same thing with Bigfoot, right? Like,
Yes.
like, oh, no, I got him on my trail cam. That's a bobcat. No, that's a house cat. You know, it's the same kind of thing. Oh, no, that's a bear. No, but look at it. It's Bigfoot. No, that's a bear. It's a bear. You know, those types of things.
It's literally opening the car. It just applied for a loan on a Kia.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's a bear. It's a bear.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, that's a bear with mange, or no, that couldn't be a wolf. They don't live here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what the conclusions that will be dictated, right? And they'll just shut down that because it's just not a valid answer. But that's how you make discoveries, is being allowed to explore and being given the leeway and the room to go look and learn. And fine, if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? But at least then they get to say, "Told you so." But it's these people that are just that just kind of shut you down. And of course, this is something probably every Bigfoot researcher will agree with. When you say, yeah, Bigfoot's out there, immediately the room is like, oh, this guy's a weirdo. I mean, I get that all the time, right? Like, people are like, you do what for your hobby? I'm like, yeah, here's the website. And then they go. And I think this website, or being able to see things in a map view, has turned even people that I know that work for these agencies, as a matter of fact, I won't say who or what agency, but I got a bunch of texts of a Bigfoot article that was just in the Lad Bible. The Bigfoot sighting. It looks like a gorilla, right? And it's a video, and he's in a swamp peeling a tree apart. And then he stands up. And 3 separate rangers, if you will, sent me this article like, hey, you need to see this. So, like, I know it's this effort is penetrating those institutions, right? And slowly, I think, by looking at the evidence and starting to relate, their knowledge of other species to what they can see in the map and understand behavior and territory, I think these professionals, right, and professors and people that work in the institution that safeguard and make our environmental policy are going to start to perhaps integrate this possibility into their policy and their daily work, right? So I know it's getting there. It's really interesting.
That's awesome.
That's got to be the catchphrase for the episode. Is like, how do I frame this?
A bear on a whirligig. How do I frame this?
It finally fucking dawned on me. And Selena can back me up. Baby girl, how many times do I listen to Bigfoot stuff while I'm falling asleep at night? Literally.
A lot.
When have cryptozoologists who've been pushing for years about the existence of a creature, right, or an entity or a being or what have you, when have they been proven wrong? I feel like this is the biggest question that's not being approached. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either.
When the fuck, and I'm throwing in the fuck, like, when some folks spent years, a number of folks, a number of institutions, right, a number of studies, a number of organizations been like, hey, we think this is a thing, we're collecting data on it, we're da-da-da-da-da-da, on down the line. When in history have they been proven wrong? Hit me up. Hit us up. Black Cat Report on any fucking social media you're on. When has that been a thing? I can't think of a single time, and I look at the archives, I look at the old shit. We ain't got a goddamn thing.
They are never wrong. They just revise.
Fair, but I just want to say, like, show me an example. Like, I'm like, I don't think this is shocking to anybody. Cryptids you were into in the 90s, cryptids you were into in the early 2000s. And one that came up to me today was like rods. Do you remember when like rods in videos was like a thing, and it was like maybe it's a form of insect, maybe it's this. I listened to a lot of old Art Bell. Even with that, I'm looking at the case with Bigfoot, and I'm like, this doesn't apply. This literally doesn't apply. It's not an aperture. It's not a frame rate. It's not a time of day. It's not a this. It's not a that. All this
The
other
platypus.
bullshit. Yeah. Like,
The platypus
That's a great
is one that
example.
actually is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what the fuck?
And people still
Bigfoot-
don't know what the hell, like, is up with a platypus. Like, it's a mammal that lays eggs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with
Poisonous,
poisonous
too.
barbs
Yeah.
on its little back.
Technically,
Mine-
it's
I know.
venomous, right? If it bites you, it's
Venomous,
venomous.
yeah.
If you bite it, it's
Yeah.
poisonous.
My question is, why are people so, in a way, offended by Bigfoot? Like, just because everyone, how people believe in certain things, like mermaids and stuff. Just why are people so offended by it? Like, okay, if it's not real, fine. Like, if it's real, how does it affect you? Why is this such a thing for people to be offended by?
I think there's a few. I mean, it depends on the person, but in general, I think that the possibility of Bigfoot being real challenges their perception and their authority of over the scientific body of like their research and their understanding and their explanation of what's going on in the environment. And I don't want to speak for a lot of scientists, but a lot of them nowadays feel that they've really built, at least about wildlife, have built up their body of knowledge to a point where there's still a lot to learn, but most of the species are identified, right? So the fact that something like Bigfoot could elude them for forever so far, right? Aside from the reports and the stories of sightings and the anecdotal evidence, I think maybe it's not the creature itself that they get offended by, but it's an insecurity type of reaction where you're more defensive about what you might perceive as your shortcoming in your field of study, or it would challenge your explanation for something, or you're a bear expert and you're like, I know everything there is. I've seen all the bears. It's just a bear. You know what I mean? And that's they're married to that. And I think part of it is being a little, like I said, it's an insecurity type of reaction. And that they're what was I just going to say? That they just get defensive, and they aren't open-minded about the possibility of a creature like Bigfoot existing. I mean, imagine there's there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres in the United States alone, North America. If you go all of North America, think of all the wilderness where people haven't even set foot, and it's been thousands of years that we've been on this continent, if not more, in a like a record-keeping historical way where we would have documentation. There's places still to this day, it's 2023, where a human being has physically never set foot. It's so deep and so impossible to get to that there are places where we can't definitively say that there's not a Bigfoot. We haven't even explored every square inch. Yes, we have LiDAR. Yes, we have satellite imagery. Yes, we have a lot of remote sensing technology, but being on the ground, as a person who makes maps and handles this data, being on the ground and physically exploring and documenting and investigating versus using that remote sensing and imagery or LiDAR data is still it's always different. That's why they have the term ground truthing, right? It's an industry term. You go out and you ground truth your measurements. Is what I ortho referenced on this map here? How far was I off when I drew that line on the map from my computer versus the real GPS measurement? Things like that. So I think a long-winded answer is that it's not maybe not the creature itself that people are offended by. It's the idea that they don't have an authoritative grasp definitively on all of the information, and it challenges their world, right? It's just not a safe idea for them to get to the get to the precipice of thinking about Bigfoot. It's just not something that they're willing to do, right? It takes a certain level of open-mindedness and willingness to entertain it, and that's why I'm sitting here. I mean, as a kid, I watched the show Finding Bigfoot, right? And I was like, there's a pattern in that show. Okay, it's like, oh, hurry up, let's cut the commercial break at the when they're screaming about something, sure, but it sparked enough for me to file it away back here, and then start to listen to what people were telling me when I was out. I traveled across the country for many years, and lived in a very sparsely populated places, made maps of those places, went down, explored those places, both on foot, in my vehicle, and with the landowners telling me a lot about their properties. And through that experience, it kind of organically connected that childhood memory to what people were telling me and my profession. And this is the amalgamation of all of that, right? This is what you're looking at. And I've always been curious, right, about stories and wildlife and the stuff that's on the fringe. And this is just, I think there's just people that aren't comfortable with the fringe. They just can't get there. They like their rules. They like their world. They like the explanation. And that's the way it is. And when you start saying that something like Bigfoot exists or anything that challenges that, they get very threatened almost. I think it's maybe not an offensive reaction, but it's a natural reaction to your worldview being threatened. You know what I mean? Your safety, quote unquote, your intellectual safety. There you go.
I will also say that Bigfoot, they're so offensive because of the smell too.
Touche. People say that about me sometimes. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I think it's it's very interesting that, like you said, there are a lot of people that are very willing to accept other cryptid type creatures or the possibility of them, and they find it entertaining. But you're right, you hit on something to answer the other part of your question, or bring up the other part of your question. It's really weird that it is specifically Bigfoot that is, and perhaps it is because deep down or somewhere they see the evidence, they've seen enough, and they are like, this is, maybe they get the most offended with Bigfoot because it seems the most plausible, right?
We see ourselves. We see
And it might also be
ourselves. It's a hominoid.
That's a very good point.
like, we might also see it as kind of like a threat to the fact that we're supposed to be the apex predator, you know?
Yeah.
There's this huge thing that we know nothing about that nobody can really pin down, you know, nobody's, you know, and it's just.
I think you touched on a great point there, Selena, where we're humans and our natural instinct, there's a theory, right, that there used to be a lot of human species that live side by side, and we're the ones that are still alive, right? So our species killed off the other parallel species theoretically, and so I mean maybe that's also our evolutionary reaction as well, like you're saying, where there's something else out there that could be a threat to our species, and deep down in our DNA somewhere, we can be the only one, you know? So it is interesting that you bring that up.
What would your dream exposure look like? Not that we can directly get you there, but we would like to help. If your name, the Bigfoot Mapping Project, if that was being replayed somewhere, where would it hit your heart the deepest?
I've never really thought about that. But since
Well, tell me where it's coming from.
if you are putting me on the spot, I think that
I am.
there's two places. There's two
Okay.
places that I can immediately think of that I deeply respect, and I think there's
Okay.
one would be National Geographic. I think if there was some article and information, how many people have those stacks of yellow magazines, right, from National Geographic?
Yeah.
I think
Yes,
that
yes,
would be my, if you were asking, a dream publication, because that's just everything about the world, about culture, about wildlife, about everything is captured in National Geographic.
Everything. Yes.
And I think if that were, if there was something in print in National Geographic about the Bigfoot Mapping Project, in good light, I think that would make my life, right? And then the second one would be on a professional level, where Esri has something. It's the Esri News. Esri, ESRI, the Environmental Science Research Institute. They're the company that makes and owns the mapping software that I use to manage all the data online and create the app and everything. It's called ArcGIS Online. They do everything spatial data, right? So if the Bigfoot Mapping Project made it to their convention or their Esri News, even just one monthly article, right? Or quarterly, I think they send them quarterly.
Just a little mention.
Hey, look.
All right.
This is what Scott's doing. But that would be, not that I'm looking for validation or anything. I enjoy this, but it would be extremely validating. It would be...
My man, it helps with life. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think people...
Yeah.
What would your
Go ahead, Joey.
What would your dream picture of the front, you on the front of National Geographic be? Would it be you with your hair all wild in the brush, just like raising your head out, looking around, and being like, and the back it has your mapping project, and it says Bigfoot, real?
I don't know. This is a very interesting conversation. I think I've never thought about it. I'm usually the one behind the camera. When I'm not hunting for Bigfoot or hunting, I'm taking wildlife photos. You guys, I'll send you all my personal Instagram.
You better.
But yeah, so I've never thought about being in front of the camera. I don't know if I'd want to be in front of the camera. I don't typically post my face or
You
stuff
don't have
about...
a choice at this point, my man.
I know.
Continue on with the rest of your PR strategy.
I guess I would just...
He has a choice.
Sorry,
It's
Selena.
his face.
Sorry, Selena. But his project's
Not
more
everybody
important
wants
than
to be
him
in
at
front of
this
a
point.
camera.
No,
The project can speak for itself.
No.
I'm in Camp Selena
The project is growing legs regardless of where you're at, Scott.
Wow.
So
This is important. Continue.
that's
Legs
a good
don't
question.
need a
man behind
face.
the
I'm
map.
saying it. I think your project's
They can
fucking
still walk.
important.
I do
believe
have
it.
one. The first photo I ever did is for Jeff Meldrum, and it's for an article, a white paper, a brief article I wrote for him about the Bigfoot Mapping Project. It's published at Idaho State University on the relic hominoid inquiry.
Okay.
And it's the first publication I wrote. Dr. Meldrum found the project like 2 weeks after I started. I don't know if I told you guys the story. 2 weeks after I started,
No.
I got this email from...
This is some bonus level shit. This
For
is
real.
some hyper nerd level shit.
For
Dr.
real,
Meldrum. If that name doesn't ring a bell, just skip the episode. Keep going, please.
I can't believe
This
I
is a
didn't
big
tell you
deal.
this story. So, I am going to answer your question. This is in part
Please.
answer to your question, but it's the build up, right? I mean, we opened with the Christmas poem. I've got to build some other stuff up too. So
Yes.
I started the project, and it was quarantine, and I think around 2 weeks after the website went live, I got an email, and it's like, "Hi, this is Jeff."
Dr. Meldrum.
He doesn't say that. He's like, "This is Jeff. found your website. I was wondering if you'd like to write an article for the Relic Hominoid Inquiry about your project. And I was like, there's no way that this is Dr.
And you're
Meldrum.
like, the fuck are you?
So I instantly was like, this is my brother messing with me, or my family, or somebody. Like, I'm getting punked.
Yeah.
I'm getting punked, right? My brother.
This
Is something we would do to each other.
Goddamn deal.
So there's a number at the bottom, in like his signature of the email, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna call it, because I gotta know, because I'll happily do it. I was ecstatic to get the email, but I called, and he picked up. He goes, "This is Jeff," and I was like, Doctor. I stuttered, right, and Dr. Meldrum. I was like, I had a fanboy moment because I was like, I can't believe.
Yes. Yeah. How do you respond?
So,
is this?
It was so
Lisa
cool.
Elizondo? What the fuck do you say in that
what
moment?
a nice person. What a nice.
Oh shit.
We talked about the importance of capturing data in a map and what this could do for the field of Bigfoot study. And so, long story short, I wrote the article, and it required a photo, and I took in my living room with my Nikon camera just a headshot, and I looked at the headshot. And you ever look at a picture of yourself and you're like, oh,
Hate it.
you're like,
Hate it.
ooh.
Yeah.
So
Every
I did
time.
that, and I was like, this is going to be on the internet, and it's going to be in a study that Dr. Meldrum did. And I would rather have people say that's a little airbrushed than that guy's really ugly, right? So I threw. I'm not even like gonna hold back here. This is the truth. So I threw it into like can't remember the stupid app I used, right? I threw it into an app, and I was like, all right, just like auto adjust, poof, and it was like, woof, you've entered video game mode, you know? And I was like,
Yeah.
and like. Looking back now, in that moment, I was like, "That's perfect. I look
I
so
want to
cool."
see it.
No.
And like,
no.
it's still out there. It might even still
This
be.
is gonna be the show photo.
It's actually. I don't think.
No.
I don't think it's
I'm looking
terrible,
it up
but
right
it's
now.
a little. It's a little.
It's gonna be the show photo.
And I was very concerned with like. Not very. I don't want to say very concerned, but I didn't want to have like if it's gonna be up on the internet in like a study. I didn't want to have some just like. Photo of me and like just random photo, you know. I wanted it to look professional, and that was my impression of professional photo. So that's probably the photo I'd use, unless
I mean, it looks good.
It does look really good.
yeah, I mean, filled in the beard a little.
Who is this Jeff person?
Jeff is Dr. Meldrum.
Who's that? Is he like from a TV show?
He is a primatologist. He is probably if I had to say, he's probably the world-renowned #1 expert and most widely, I would say, accepted or listened to expert on Bigfoot. And one of the reasons that he's not criticized as much is because he studies. Being a primatologist, he studies casts of footprints, and he's very familiar with the anatomy and the what's the word for the dermal ridges on the casts. Much like your fingerprint, like you have, if you look at your hands, you have the dermal ridges, and that's what they fingerprint, right? The same thing goes for your feet. And his theory, or part of his theory, the biggest part of his theory, I should say, is that you cannot fake those, right? You cannot fake those dermal ridges on the casts.
Oh, so
It's
he
just
believes in
damn near impossible.
Bigfoot and like.
Yes, yeah, he's an academic and he's a professor at Idaho State University with a current teaching position at the university that is probably the most well-known, widely published face of Bigfoot research, modern Bigfoot research, I would say. So thank you all for having me and welcoming me. Like I'm part of the family. I very much
You
appreciate
are
being
in the
here.
family, my man.
And it's
Yes.
really cool to hear that our episode was number 5 in your all-time hits. So that's
Yes.
very cool. I hope it
Yes,
stays
easy.
up there. And a little bit about the project for the listeners. Some new cool stuff is I just updated the website to be a bit more just distilled down to like when you get to the homepage, it's get to the map, submit a sighting, get to the store if you're interested in buying a
Yes.
T-shirt or anything.
Yes.
And that's really it. The old website layout was a bit busy, so I listened to some feedback and fixed it up. So please go check it out if you haven't. It's bigfootmap, all one word, .com. And the Instagram where I publish, that's where I'm most active, really. I love the platform for maps and
Yeah.
some commentary on it. It's Bigfoot Mapping Project, at Bigfoot Mapping Project on Instagram. There's a Facebook group, and I'm also on Facebook, but generally most of the posts are just what I post on Instagram. I just post to Facebook too. I'm not very active on it. And also, if you want to reach out, feel free to email me anytime directly, scott@bigfootmap.com, or you can reach out on Instagram. But that's all the info about the project. And another thank you to everyone that submitted a sighting. There's about 300, and I want to say thank you because without the submissions, we wouldn't have anything to further the study, further the project, and make really interesting, informative maps. So thank you for that.
Scott, I want to ask you, what is the most significant contribution someone can make? And I want you to detail it. So is it sights? Is it sounds? Is it tastes? Is it what they hear? Like, tell me. If somebody's listening to this episode and they are just like literally holding on to the mountain with the tips of their fingernails, what do they do to contribute? Please.
There's 2 ways to, I would say, contribute. One, if you haven't had a sighting or want to support the project, the best thing you could do is share. Just share the project. Share some information about it. Share the website. Put it out there.
Bigfoot Mapping Project.
Yep, bigfootmap.com.
On Twitter, Instagram. Yeah.
And if everyone knows who has somebody who has a Bigfoot story, so maybe you can, if they haven't found the website, you can share it with them. And if you had the first, and of course the biggest way somebody can contribute is by submitting their sighting if they've had one, or submitting their photos of footprints, recordings, even just information about a sighting they had. If there is no photos or anything, please get it in there, because tying the data to a location is still valuable when you put it into the aggregated data set. So it's both those ways are just as good as the other as far as contributing and helping the project.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah,
Eva
thank you
Mono.
guys. This has been fun. I wish I got to talk to you guys all more often. I think.
We're bringing you on as a fifth member of the
I'm in.
podcast.
Sold. Yeah, I gotta say, your shirts look great, by the way. I don't know where you got those, but they're really cool. They're awesome.
Also, throw out the name. Also, I seriously want to throw this out there. I know I'm the only one fucking up here. My dad even pointed out it is the most comfortable shirt he's ever worn in his life. 67 years old. Please, Scott, tell us where the fuck to get these shirts.
Oh,
please.
sure. Bigfootmap.shop is actually the
Bigfootmap.shop.
Yep.
Go buy a goddamn shirt. Even if you don't like baseball. I literally fucking hate baseball.
My wife
The
steals all of them.
baseball shirt, I'd love.
Thank you so much for listening to the Black Cat Report and our interview with Scott Tompkins of the Bigfoot Mapping Project. Grab your merch from the Bigfoot Mapping Project merch shop. The baseball shirts are super comfy. And please remember to like, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned after to hear Scott's Christmas poem, and we'll see you on the other side.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The cameras were hung from the trees with care, in hopes that Bigfoot soon would be there. The squatchers were nestled all snug in their tents, while blurry visions of yetis danced in their heads. Wood knocks in the forest, and trees they do slap, in the search for answers, is it fact or cap? When out in the field there arose such a clatter, we had to report what was the matter. Away to the window I flew with a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the beast and the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to the footprints below, when what to my wandering eyes should appear but a well-equipped researcher in BMP gear.